Get ready, get set, and hold on. It's going to be one hell of a ride. Good morning, and welcome to the Mouth of Matuszak radio show. And I'm your host, Paul-Gregory Matuszak, on this Thursday, August 7th, 2014. And as I said, we've got one heck of a ride for you this morning. Lots of stuff to cover. Probably going to be all over the map as we kind of try to organize things. There's been quite a bit that I've been looking at to the point where kind of brought me all the way up to the last second. So it's not entirely organized. But we'll do our best to follow a kind of a flow for you here on this Thursday. And this being a Thursday, you'd think I'd probably have some throwback stuff. But, well, you know, I could throw back and replay the humor from President Reagan that I played yesterday. But I think we'll skip that one. But there's all kinds of things coming out. Still waiting on some new information. But a recap of what I know about what happened with Bowe Bergdahl's interview yesterday. The reports, the hooks I have out there that kind of gave me what information they're allowed to give out, said that Bowe actually answered just about every question that was posed to him, gave full and complete answers. Whether or not they were truthful is a different story. Wasn't there, don't know exactly what was asked. But he answered all the questions. He had a lawyer present. And the investigation is going to continue going forward. And we'll see what comes. However, one of the things that is of note is that even General Mullen, or was it Admiral Mullen, when he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, had kind of hinted very strongly that all the way up to the chain, all the way at the top, they kind of knew that he at least had an issue of dereliction of duty and at least failure to repair, which means he failed to show up at work when he was supposed to on purpose. I mean, whether it's overslept or some other form of negligence, he still didn't make sure he was at work when he was supposed to be. And dereliction of duty. And at the bare minimum, Bowe is probably going to be facing a field grade Article 15 at the bare minimum. And probably along with that, given the current situation within the military, he's probably also going to be strongly urged to leave. He's probably going to be, because of everything he went through, it'll probably be a medical discharge instead of a bad conduct one. But we don't know. We'll see what the future holds. We'll see where the rest of this investigation goes. Evidently, they're looking into places where they didn't bother before. They took some statements from select people, but didn't really do thorough interviews with platoon mates and people that were there and actual witnesses, etc., etc. They just talked to people at the command level and then said, okay, we know he went missing and we need to get him back, was the initial investigation. So right now this one's a little bit more detailed, and they even have Bowe's own words. So what is going to happen in the future, we don't know. We'll just have to pay attention and look. But folks, the whole Bowe Bergdahl thing, that's good military news. That's good for those of us who served about the time that he was taken or since. That's kind of stuff that's good within the ranks. And seeing that if he did do something wrong, that he is subjected to proper justice. that that's good for morale, and that he receives a proper discipline and punishment. As far as what's going on in the world, though, and what's going on with our nation, that's a distraction issue. And we have all kinds of distraction issues going on, trying to keep us from putting our eyes on what's really, really going on as we look deeper for the truth of what's going on.
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Well, my friend, who I've never met, Miss Eleanor Norton, I have a right to know what I have a right to know, and the people have a right to know what they have a right to know. You don't get to decide. Certain things out there do get to decide what needs to be withheld for the greater good, for the protection of the nation, for national security and national defense. But as I said many times, that is such a small percentage of the information used by our government, generated by our government, or within government agencies, primarily the Department of Defense, that it's negligible in the grand scheme of things compared to everything that's being hidden that shouldn't be. Speaking of things being hidden or no longer being hidden, we've had a couple of good gaffes over the past couple of days. Evidently, one of the reporters, I think she's a former MSNBC reporter, or maybe she's a current one, but she gave a little bit of a Freudian slip, an oopsie, and when talking about the African Leaders Conference that Obama hosted yesterday, which she was speaking about it before the conference, of course, and she made mention, probably by accident, that Obama was from Kenya. Interesting. Somebody who is ideologically from that side of the aisle, kind of letting that one slip out. Now, folks, I am not a birther. And even if Obama was born in Kenya or Indonesia or Botswana, doesn't matter. His mother was an American citizen at the time. And because his mother was an American citizen, by our laws, Obama's an American citizen. Doesn't matter where he was born. What matters, based on our laws, is that his mother was an American citizen, which makes him one. Period. End of discussion. So you can sit there and do the birtherisms on, was he born in Hawaii? Was he born in Kenya? Was he born in Indonesia? Was he born in Somalia? Was he born in Botswana? Was he born in Siberia? Does it matter? No. That is the truth. But the gaffe there is something else to consider. That it's just kind of funny that Obama's entire background may have been fabricated, but it doesn't change the truth of the facts. He is a U.S. citizen. He was a born U.S. citizen. Wasn't naturalized. He was natural born. Period. Anyway, going into another couple of gaffes there, and I wish I had the clips for it. Somebody's going to have to look and try to find it for me, or find it for yourself. This just goes on rumor, something I heard kind of coming over the radio this morning when I was listening to somebody else's morning show. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to listen to the whole clip. But I guess during Obama's address yesterday, which he was more than an hour late for, to the point where somebody who I know who was there said that when Obama was actually pulling up and heading towards the podium, or making his way that way, that they announced, "The show will be ready to begin within a couple of minutes. Please take your seats, to the press corps. And that, of course, led to rounds of laughter because he was more than an hour and 15 minutes late. Of course, he was busy, hobnobbing with the tyrants out of Africa who came to visit him. But allegedly, he admitted to wanting to expand the use of executive powers and being willing to use every single executive power he has to do what he wants, regardless of what the legislature passes or doesn't pass, what the will of the people are. Allegedly. Now, I guess that could be one way of taking his words, and that's all subject to personal interpretation. But it's interesting if that really did happen. So if somebody could check that out and do a good story on that, or get a clip of that from the presidential address yesterday, I would love to see it for myself. That notwithstanding, that's some of the lunacy coming out of kind of the powers that be there in Washington. Yeah. I just want to know, with this press conference coming after a summit with African leaders, what the heck that summit had to do with the violence going on in Israel. We have treaties with Israel. Okay, they're still active treaties. So if we still have these active treaties and they haven't been repealed yet, why is this even a debate on whether or not we're going to support our allies, our legal allies, through international law? Obama's all big on international law and trying to give away U.S. sovereignty to the UN. Well, we have this treaty that was ratified. We have several treaties that were ratified. They're done by the executive branch and ratified by the Senate. Well, if they're still valid, they haven't expired yet, we need to stick to them. So there should be no issue there, at least from the powers that be, the ruling class in Washington. They have an obligation. They made a deal. So as the ceasefire goes on, and evidently Israel has no intentions of restarting any of the violence there, or any of the aggression, even though the ceasefire is going to expire soon. But and they're willing to extend it, but evidently the leaders on the Hamas side and the other terrorist organizations don't want to extend it. They say once it's done, if Israel doesn't concede to all their demands, they're just going to start up again. Well, of course, they start up again. Israel has a right to defend itself, so it's going to start going both ways, and people are going to start dying. And of course, anytime you have people fighting, good guys against bad guys, if innocents are anywhere nearby, they're going to get caught in the crossfire. And of course, the good guys are going to try to minimize that as much as possible, mitigate collateral damage, as it were. But it's kind of hard to do when the bad guys are using the innocents as hostages and human shields. So, the world will wait and watch. But mind you, the Palestinians and the Israelites, the Hebrews, have been going at it for millennia. Back since the times of David and Goliath was Palestinians versus Hebrews. Or they called them Philistines back then. Same tribes of people. Philistines, Palestinians, exact same. So that's how long this has been going on. So you really want to, my solution to the whole violence thing is you take their military leaders from both sides. Not the soldiers, just the military leaders. And you put them in the Thunderdome. Maybe larger than a Thunderdome, but you section them off. You trap them in a situation where nobody can escape, nobody can get out. And you put select weapons in there. And you tell them, go at it, last one standing wins. Let them duke it out. Tell them that they're going to sit there and they're going to either fight it out or they're going to learn to play nice and come up with an agreement, whichever comes first. But one way or another, this is going to, the only way that they're going to be let out is when this ends. And if they all die in there, and this isn't concluded, well, time to go and farm the next group and shove them in there. Like I said, this has been going on for millennia. Is it going to end anytime soon? I'd love to see it end in my lifetime, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it. I have more important things to do. Just like looking over at what Russia's planning on doing or not planning on doing when it comes to Ukraine, they've kind of telegraphed a little bit that they're prepared to march across the Crimea and go into Ukraine and take it back over. They may not. They may just be, shaking their fists and doing a show of force. We don't know. We'll see. I think it's up to the people of Ukraine to decide whether they want to stay as their own country or they want to become a state under the Russian Federation. That's completely up to them. Just as long as they're not turning around and shaking their fists at us and threatening us. Because once they start doing that, well, then we have to watch them. And as soon as it looks like they're going to make good on it, that's a different story. Now, if they're asking us for help, that's a touchy situation, and one that I'm glad that I'm not a position of leadership that would have to try to decide. There's a lot going on there that isn't hitting the news, a lot that's kept within intelligence channels, and I'm sure that the leaders out there are paying some attention to that. And I'm not talking necessarily about the president, but I am talking about his advisors. I hope they're looking at it and actually reading the intelligence reports, since we all know that Obama won't know about it unless it actually hits the news. So, yeah. Well, speaking of the lawlessness of Obama, I was doing my morning show prep, and there was a great story popped up over at BuzzPo. Now, BuzzPo is one of the places I go for my show prep. I also go and look at the Daily Caller, and I look to see if Dana Lash has anything up on her site. Michelle Malkin, of course. I look through the Drudge Report just like everybody else does. And I look over at the site formerly known as the Brenner Brief, where I used to work. And that's part of my morning show prep. And I go to places where I consider to be more reliable for news, which usually does not include, any of the big networks at all. Because a lot of times if they're carrying it, they're first of all not carrying the full story, and secondly they're carrying what they think will sell, whereas I'm looking for the truth. And I also do some other searches into things that maybe are not coming from news sources, but are coming from my sources, so I can generate news when I write my own articles. But anyway, over in BuzzPo, a great video is posted, and I think this originally may have come through Breitbart. That's where they may have gotten it in the first place before they wrote it up. But it's, well, anyway, I'll let you all hear what's going on here. But the background story, from what I gather, is a gentleman who wanted access to a public area in a city in New Jersey and was denied. So he was told he was trespassing on public area, public land that his taxes pay for. So that of course led him to go and ask questions about how they could block his access to these public areas. And that led to some statements from the local police that should probably raise your eyebrows. So give a listen to what happened in New Jersey.
I have major objections of what's going on over at the shelter there. My First and Fourth Amendment rights were violated. My civil rights were violated.
Well, have I ever that? Because Obama has decimated the freaking Constitution. So I don't give a damn, because if he doesn't follow the Constitution, We don't have
It's
to.
New Jersey case law.
Yes,
You don't have. Did you get that?
Yeah, did you
He doesn't
get
have to
that?
follow the
Because
Constitution.
our president.
Can you say that one more time? I'm not sure.